I had, not only did I have Beat 77, which is a black neighborhood, or was, but I had the downtown beat and the Central Street beat.
When I posted it on my Facebook page that you were the new chief, it was one after the other person was like so excited.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what it was. I wasn't arresting them for bullshit, and I was loaning people money, you know, helping people. Going to their baby showers, you know, going to family funerals and things like that. And some of them were savory characters. So in the police department, a lot of cops took that like, oh, what he doing talking to him? Or what he doing with her? You know, if it was a girl, oh, he must be having a relationship with her. Or if it was some guy that's been in prison or something like that, oh, he must be telling a drug dealer something, you know, that kind of message, which is totally false. And nobody, look, when Gerald Cooper became chief, they fed him the same lines about Mitchum and me possibly being dirty cops. So he called the FBI. They sent in Agent Henderson. Agent Henderson came here, rode with us, but he came here under the guise of gang eradication. It was the FBI. We like, well, the FBI we ain't never known them to have a gang unit. So they rode with us. He rode with us. And what he would do is the people that we introduced him to in the community, when we weren't around, he would come back and interview them. This was all part of his investigation. When he finished the investigation, he said, you need more cops like them.
Right.
So that proved right there that, you know, people, a lot of it comes out of the police department, where they make these statements about your character that you can't get rid of. You know, you just can't get rid of it. And I ain't got the new SAC know me. The new FBI SAC, he knows me. All right, so you don't get up to those people offices and walk up to them and converse being a savory character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've always been the kind of person that believed in being righteous. You know, I make mistakes, but I'm not a crook. Never have been. So some of the stuff that emanates, I don't know where the hell it comes from. Print that.
Where did you grow up?
Altgeld Gardens Public Housing Projects, south side of Chicago, 130th Street.
And tell me a bit about your childhood.
Well, I had a mom and a dad. You know, we didn't look at it as public housing. You know, it was just a neighborhood. You know, it's the furthest you can go in Chicago South. So it wasn't like what people would think a public housing project was like. You know, we didn't have high rise. You know,
it's low.
It was low rise, like little townhouses. You know, so I went. My dad worked at Scott Lab Food Company. My mom was a housekeeper for Gloria Jackson, Dr. Gloria Jackson. She ran the clinic in Altgeld Gardens. Wow. And she was the president of Jackson Park Hospital. And she lived in Hyde Park. So my mom would go to her house and, you know, work with her kids and clean her house and all of that. So I went to school, and when I was 15, my dad died. He just fell dead, had a heart attack. He was 39 years of age.
And do you have siblings?
Yes, I got 2 brothers and a sister.
Older, younger?
They're all younger. We all
oldest?
stair-step. Yeah, I'm the oldest. I'm 60, my brother's 59, the other brother's 58. And then it's like a 4-year gap.
So you were the oldest child when your dad died and you were 15?
Yes. Wow. So what happened, Dr. Hawkins, Dr. Larry Hawkins, he used to be the athletic basketball coach at Carver High School. So Glenn Johnson, who was the football coach, well, I played football, Dr. Hawkins left Carver High School and went to the University of Chicago and started this program called the Upward Bound program. And you know, they had counselors like my counselors was Judge Stutley. He just retired. He was head of the Cook County Juvenile Court Division. And James Townsend, who owns several State Farm, he's retired. He lives out in Oak Park. These guys were my counselors in the Upward Bound program. So it was a mix of athletics, classroom where you were lacking, you know, in your education, like math, you know. So Mr. Townsend, he taught us math, and Judge Stutley taught us reading and stuff like that.
So this was during high school. It was sort of a high school program that you did at the U of C.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Okay.
So I was over there my whole high school career.
Wow.
We ride the bus over there.
Wow.
And it became a paid program. I can't remember, I think, when I was a junior, I started. But Dr. Hawkins, he wouldn't give us our check because he knew what we was going to do. We was going to go out and spend it. So he would hold our checks, all of them, to the end of the summer and give them to our mom. And my mom managed, you know, me with spending. And his philosophy was, I'm going to teach you how to save money. So in my senior year, he withheld all my checks for the whole summer. And when I got ready to go off to college, I had my own money to buy, you know, underwear, clothing, and stuff like that to go off. So he was a person that he was about, that's where I learned ethics. You know, he was like, it's better to tell the truth and get punished than to tell a lie and go down the drain. So I always believed in, if I did something wrong, look, apologize and tell the truth, and then you can move forward.
And did he come into your life right when your dad died?
Yeah, right afterwards, yeah.
Wow.
Because, you know, I learned about becoming a man and all of that stuff. You know, we would have group sessions. Because a lot of us, if we didn't have dads, some of us just didn't have dads.
Right.
You know, in my case, my dad just happened to pass away. So it was a good thing for young black boys in the projects, because one part of the projects was Black Gangster Disciples, and on the other half was Black Peace Stones. So on the way to school, you got to walk through both sectors to get to school. So all they wanted you to do was beat your chest, show the gang sign, and then you can go on through. And we can get to Carver High School, because when they built the new Carver High School, I had to walk like maybe 2 miles to get to it. So you walking through these little territories, you know. Ain't nothing.
So how did you have to pick which gang sign to do?
You just did it with whatever neighborhood. You knew which, you knew which neighborhood you was in, so you learned how to do it in both neighborhoods.
And were you ever tempted to join a gang? Did you ever join a gang? Were you ever?
No, I never joined a gang, but I understood how to survive in an environment where it's gang activity and it's violence. You know, you do what you got to do to get through that neighborhood. I played football during football season, and we ran track during track season. We would come up here to Evanston High School. Joe Stewart was the state champion. You know, we ran in the 880 relay against Evanston High School for the state championship. Carver High School did. So I was always busy. Now my brother wasn't so fortunate. You know, he got involved in gang activity. So it was just really a matter of what you want to do and how you want to focus your life. But he was able to pull himself out of that and join the military. And he did a nice stint in the military. My cousin Ben, he went to the military. He did 30 years there. He ended up doing 30 years in the military. We all come out of the projects. So
when your dad died, was money a big issue?
My mom, she had a job. You know, I don't know what her salary was, but I told you she was a housekeeper for Dr. Jackson. And my mom got us everything we ever wanted. We had nice clothes, we got stuff for Christmas. She prepared all of us, if we had the opportunity to go to college. Like I took the ACT and all that. My sister did also, and she got accepted to Lincoln University. She went off to school there. My mom had $1,000 saved up for her to put in a bank account when she got to school. We had the big trunks, the big old trunks.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, full of stuff to go off to school with. So it was a struggle for her, but we got what we needed. My dad worked, so when I got in college, we got Social Security checks.
And I know that when, and I couldn't be there, but when you were sworn in, I know your mom put your badge on. So what did that mean to you?
Well,
And what
my
do you think it
mom,
meant to her?
my mom is a heavy-handed lady. She don't care how old we are. You're going to answer to her. So, like when stuff happens on the news involving police, she calls me. That's what she do. She'll call me and say, "Why did that cop shoot that man?" Or whatever the situation was. And then she'll say something to the effect like, "You better not be out there doing that." So it's like, to this day, we still have this accountability, and she tell it like it is. If she think you doing something, my mom knows us really well. If she think we involved in something, she'll call you on it.
So who is your role model and why?
Today, I got them two guys, James Townsend, I call him Mr. Townsend, and Judge Michael Stutley. They're my two role models. They real men. They ain't nothing negative about them. They persona as men. Their philosophy about life, they believe in working, their honesty. And I was just at, last week, James Townsend, his mom passed away. And I was there, and I just watched how, he was the oldest guy in his family. So I just watched how he was like the leader of his family during that bad time, it was 8 of them. So
he's a leader and somebody to look up to.
Yeah, and they were smart guys. They went to good universities. They was able to teach over at the University of Chicago and participate in that Upward Bound program. So they were pretty smart men.
And where did you go to college?
I went to SIU in Carbondale. It's the greatest university in the world.
And what did you study?
Study law enforcement.
What led you to a career in law enforcement?
Well, I had Officer Hawthorne, Abraham Hawthorne. He was our police officer in our school. He was a Chicago policeman, and he didn't play. Back then, get slapped upside the head wasn't no big thing. But he was like, "Man, go to school and be a policeman." He would always tell us, "Take the Chicago police test." So when I got to down in Carbondale, I was undecided. I was my first classes were general studies classes. And then I found out they had a law enforcement program on campus. So he came into my mind and he said, you should be a policeman. So I got in law enforcement. All because, I believe because of Mr. Abraham Hawthorne.
If you weren't doing what you do now, what else would you have done?
I don't know. That's like trying to change your fate. And you can't change your fate.
This is your fate.
This is my fate right here. This is my, I could be retired. I got 2 pensions, all right? My kids all went to college. They all out of school except for my youngest baby. But I don't know what else to do. This is my life.
Is this your passion?
Yes, and I work with some these police officers here. They're some really good police officers. Everything ain't gonna always go right with these cops. My job is to straighten it out when it's wrong and to admit when it's wrong, and hopefully the situation don't be to a point where it's punitive on the citizens' money, civil litigation. I want to rid the police department of civil litigation, and I want to give the cops the tools they need to go out and make good decisions. Hey, how to have, when I was in grade school, on your report card, there used to be a box said self-control. You remember that?
Yeah.
That's still a problem today, So how do we control ourselves and give the public the best service that we can give?
Under pressure.
And under pressure, no matter what the citizen says to me, I should have self-control. I should be able to take that and still make decisions. Now, I have a lady that I've been working with. Her name is Dr. Margaret Spencer. She's the head of psychology at the University of Chicago. She's my friend. And some of her research is built upon, as a police officer, you may be at a volatile call where it's a lot of cussing, a lot of disturbance, things that get you upset, because police officers are just like anybody else. We get upset. And then 10 minutes later, I got to go a mile away to a lady that may just have a suspicious person call. So I'm taking that baggage from that call to the next call. So her thing is, how do we de-escalate ourselves, our own mental perspectives and negatives from that call to the next call. So she wants to do some surveys here. So we're gonna
That's interesting.
be moving in that direction.
So one of the things that you think is one of the most important things to focus on is self-control of police officers as they go from one call to the next.
Right. Not only that, but it's an element of danger in this profession. We got to admit that. But what's the percentage of the people that's going to perpetrate that violence against you? I think the Justice Department came out a long time ago in the 90s with a view of, it's called 97-3 targeting, that when you look at gang eradication. And it basically says that 97% of the population is on your side.
Right.
And that 3% of the population is the criminal and the recidivist criminal. So it's a constant effort with just 3% of the population. So how do we learn? This town is a melting pot, and that's what, to me, makes this town a gold mine. Yeah. So.
Do you think it's a hard time to be a police officer and to be a police chief right now?
Yeah, I think it is, but that's what makes it interesting.
So you're not cowed by the challenge. You're up for the challenge.
I'm up for it. Because in order to succeed in these times, you have to tell the truth. Plain and simple. If a policeman makes a mistake, you got to admit it to the public. Don't wait till you paying them a big lump sum and then got to fend it off. Be upfront. We got enough brain power here. We got people in this place that collectively we should be able to look at a situation and say, that ain't industry standard law enforcement practice. We know that. So what we have to do is not be afraid to tell the public the truth when we made a mistake. If we made a mistake, we acknowledge it. We do discipline. It ain't always got to be punitive. I think a mix sometime is good, a mix of punitive, a mix of education.
Right.
makes a better disciplinary practice, and then apologize to the public and move on. What's the big deal for me to look in a mirror or the camera and say, that ain't what we subscribe to, we made a mistake and we're going to correct it. And we got to look at training, we got to look at, was it a policy violation? If so, then we got to change it.
So with the Lawrence Crosby case, people were saying, why didn't the city apologize for that?
Well, when the Lawrence Crosby case came out, I was 4 years back in Glenwood. Now, let me tell you something about Chief Eddington. Chief Eddington is a highly respected police chief, all right? Not only in Evanston, but anywhere you go, all right? I utilized Chief Eddington on numerous occasions to help problem solve issues that I was having in Glenwood. It's always easy to look back in hindsight and Monday morning quarterback the decisions of a chief. I wasn't here. I don't know why, you know what I'm saying, why that happened. That may be something you should have posed to him, but I have the utmost respect for Chief Eddington. He is a good friend of mine. All I can tell you what I do when the ball come my way, and that's, can I look into the future? No, but my thing is, I'm hoping that with my education and experience and with the backing of the great police command staff we got here, we can make the right decision. And if it was the wrong decisions made in a situation involving our police officers, we're going to do the right thing and take the right action to correct if it was deficiencies in the operation.
Talk a little bit about what it's like to be a black man who is a police officer and a police chief. So sometimes you're wearing the uniform and you're one identity, and sometimes you're wearing street clothes and you're another identity.
Well, you got to be careful. Being black shouldn't have to. Martin Luther King said black was stigmatized in America. They made race and color an issue. It ain't never went away. Right. In his speech, he talked about the emancipation of blacks, and that's
never happened.
It ain't happened.
Right.
So when is it gonna happen? And now, people want to be able to live their life. That's why you have all these things that's been locked up for a long time. Like marijuana. People, it's a population of people want to smoke marijuana. I don't ascribe to it, but that's the way society is going. My first encounter with the police, I was driving my mom's car. The policeman stopped me and said, "You're negligent driving." I said, "What's that?" I had my license for like 6 months. I got them when I was 16 in high school. And he said, "I'm gonna have to write you a ticket." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, how much is the ticket gonna be?" He said, "How much you got?" This is God's truth. And I said, I went in my pocket, I had $16. I said, "I got $16. He said, "Give me that." He took the $16, walked back into his car, and sped off. That was my first experience with the police, Chicago police. But you look at what that Chicago policeman did, and then you look at what the other Chicago policeman did in formulating my destiny, and putting in a word and putting it in my mind to become a police officer. So you got good and you got bad. You got to weed out the bad and move forward.
Are you ever aware, as a black man in jeans and a t-shirt?
Oh, yeah. When I was in Drug Enforcement Administration, they got what's called deconfliction now. And that's where agencies let each other know if they're doing some kind of covert operation in a particular area. And they do that so that it's no bumping in each other and we be getting friendly fire. Well, when I was in the Drug Enforcement Administration, they didn't have that. So I'm over on 47th and Lake Park at the strip mall, and we doing a deal, and the cop comes up, pulls his gun on me, get me out of the car, and it was a friendly deal between Chicago police and the DEA.
But they didn't recognize you.
Because I was black.
Yeah.
You know, I was a black guy with a gun. You know, that's why, you know, as a black man in this society, you have to be leery of those kind of things, because people are reacting differently. They react different to a black man with a gun versus a white man with a gun. And either one could be a threat. It's just we're more of a threat because we're black. And that, you know, the topic of race is a burning subject we need to get out of under the table, and people need to admit wrong, not only with black people, with Hispanics, with the American Indians, and anybody else, the Jewish people that have been wronged. People need to admit and acknowledge that so we can move forward in America. This is a great country, but it'll never reach its greatest potential under racism. I'll give you the deal. What is this? Jewelry store was on Central Street. It was not far from the post office on Central Street. It used to be a jewelry store, and I went in there. Now, I had on plain clothes. I was a detective. And the lady looked at me, and she started moving around, but I didn't pay her no attention. What she had did was went under the thing and pressed a button. And the next thing I know, the Evanston police, the cops I work for, they there, and they like, I'm like, what y'all doing here? And they're like, we just got a panic alarm. And the girl felt real bad, because then she finds out I'm a policeman.
Right.
And the owner of the store comes out, who knew me from walking the beat over there, said, what happened? And she tells him why she pressed the button, because she looked at me. I had on an army jacket, black, you know. So those kind of things, you know, getting traffic stops, you know, petty traffic stops. You know, when your probable cause is your license plate light was out. So what? You know, stop the guy. Hey, sir, your license plate light is out. You promised to get it fixed and go on about your business. You know, you look at some of these issues with these traffic stops. They start out as traffic stops, and then they turn into full-blown searches. Yep. Now, you know, we need to start scrutinizing whether that's justified or not. You know, I'm not going to stop a guy over in, let's pick a prominent neighborhood over here. Somebody coming down Edgemere Court, and hey, you didn't stop at that stop sign. Your license plate light is out. Step out of the car. Pat him down. I smell weed. So what? We smell weed. The state's attorney ain't even prosecuting weed. And then do a full-blown search and see what happened. That's the kind of stuff, as police officers, that's de-escalation to me. Don't do it. And that ain't hard to do, you know. It's enough criminals.
Focus on more of the
real deal.
Dangerous
yeah,
stuff.
it's, hey, look, now these cops, they know how to do it. My first deal here, I had been following a crime. I knew it was a guy shot on Howard Street, but he lived. But it was on the Chicago side. I don't believe in saying the Chicago side. It's our side, you know, because that's our neighbor. Then it was the student kill, the Northwestern student kill. Then you had, it was a girl sexually assaulted on, down on that end. And then you had this man down there that's randomly killing people. You know, it was a guy that was randomly killing people in Rogers Park.
Yeah.
But ain't no wall, you know. So my first deal was, I said, the citizens of Evanston, they need to be able to get off the CTA train, walk to the bus stop, not be harassed, not be dodging bullets, or if they want to walk Howard Street and go home, they ought to be able to do that. So I shifted some units down to saturate Howard Street. In 3 weeks, we done got 3 or 4 guns. And now these ain't concealed carry people. These is gang members down there on Howard Street carrying these guns. And we've had several incidents, I'm sure you may know, where the police officers out there doing a good job because they know I ain't playing when it comes to doing the bogus stops. You know that word, bogus. You know what that means, right? So, but these guys is ramming the police cars, putting these cops in danger. I ain't taking that, Now, that's the stuff we need to focus on. And the public need to focus on that, too, and understand that we ain't perfect. We out here doing a good job, and you need to recognize that instead of beating us down 100% of the time. I believe in that. This is the deal. Evanston, they take a national agenda, in terms of what's wrong in law enforcement and putting it on Evanston. Now, that's okay. But to what extent and to what issues is that a good fit in Evanston? Is it race? Yes. Is it not knowing when to de-escalate? Yes. But, when is it a matter of community policing and networking? No, because we the kings of that, and we do a good job at that. So I want to make what we do shine. I want to work on the things that bring us into litigation, like this deal with Mr. Crosby, and fix it.
What's the hardest part of being a police officer?
I don't know. I think getting painted with the broad brush. You got good white cops. When you make everything a issue of race, I think that's bad. But that's what black people have dealt with. The issue of race. So now people are fighting back against that. When you see these young guys in these videos, I've been watching them, they really don't trust the police. And they really are afraid of the police because of getting shot in the back 16 times, running away, getting shot in the back. These is real issues that is causing a lot of problems. So we need to fix this. We need registries to get rid of the bad cops, put their name in there where they can't go leave one spot in a bad record and go to another job. I was at the Invisible Institute over there. You familiar with that over at the University of Chicago?
Yeah.
Jamie Calvin, the journalist, I was at a deal over there with him and Dr. Alan Green. I sat on a panel. It was Black Lives Matter, the hippies. It was a whole bunch of groups over there. I was the black face over there representing law enforcement, And they was like, oh, here come Cook, here come Uncle Tom Cook, And but my thing was, I'm gonna tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And if my truth and the truth that I'm putting out as a professional law enforcement officer don't fit your truth as to what we should be doing in law enforcement, then ain't nothing I can say to you, because this is a science. And it's a science that over time you learn to master. When you look at accountability, when you look at citizen review, a lot of these groups think they can just come in as citizen review groups and analyze complex police situations. You know, and I ask some of them a lot of times, have you ever heard of the Force Science Institute? No, they never heard of that. Have you ever heard of any of the books? Let me show you these books.
You mean law enforcement books?
Yeah. I got 2 that I'm taking to the meeting tonight. I'm all good for industry standard, and I'm good for progressiveness, you know. And I still think in law enforcement, well, not in Chicago because they led the way, but I think a lot of the smaller departments are still resisting citizen review, you know, citizen input, decentralization of the intake process for complaints. You know, a lot of times people are afraid of the police because they've been harassed so much and called names on the street. A lot of times they're afraid of reprisal from some of these police officers. A lot of times they say the supervisor is siding with the officer without hearing their fact. So decentralizing the complaint intake process, I think is a good idea. You know, and when you look at the Evanston police department process, you know, in the Hilliard Heights report, they did an analysis for the police department here. And they said that we had an industry standard progressive complaint process. But it's still some things I can do to make it fit what the public wants, like decentralization of the complaint process. We have oversight through the Human Services Committee. But, you know, I looked at it and I say, well, maybe one thing that could be improved on that back end is I sit down with the OPS guys and we really go over the complaint and all be on one accord as to the disposition. So when we get to the Human Services Committee, why should the OPS guy, the investigator, sergeant and commander in OPS, be over at Human Services answering for a patrolman that they don't even work for them? My thing is, what I'm going to institute is his police commander, the patrol commander, or the supervisor, direct supervisor, the sergeant of whatever watch he's on. Hey, you go answer. You go in front of these aldermen and answer why your police officer did A, B, C, and D. And what I'm hoping to get out of that is greater accountability. I'm thinking the police sergeant, the sergeant will say, maybe I need to supervise a little bit better to stay out of the eyesight of the Human Services Committee. And I think that's a good thing for career development because they eventually going to become sergeants and commanders and things, deputy chiefs. So they need to get assimilated to the governmental process for redress of complaints in this town. And furthermore, they need to understand that they got to answer to somebody. That's the way it is right now. So I'm going to show you the 2 books here that I'm reading that I'm really intrigued by. Police Misconduct Complaint Investigations Manual. If you want to understand citizen review and how to implement it, this is the book. The New World of Police Accountability. The New World. See, this stuff is, you know, even though a lot of the major cities are way ahead of us, you know, the big cities, you know, of the little suburban towns on implementing reform with the complaint process and, you know, just not whitewashing these people's complaints through the process. Oh, not sustained, you know. Oh, we couldn't contact the complainant. Well, you got the body camera video, right? Do something with it. That's my hopes that, you know, if I can market my vision of reform with respect to the complaint process, hopefully people will see some legitimacy in it and they'll see that You know, you can measure it. You know, it could be quantitative, and you could do qualitative analysis of what I'm doing and where we've been with the complaint process. And hopefully, you know, over time we'll improve it even more. Every time I speak to somebody, you know, I don't discount any neighborhood group, because every time I speak to someone in a group setting or even as an individual, I get some good ideas.
What personal traits are you proudest of?
In myself? Being able to have fun.
What do you do?
I try to laugh around here. You know, what is a work environment without having some fun? I think we joke, humor, you know, clean humor. Getting to know people. You know, I could be a chief, he could be a commander. You could be the deputy chief. But if I don't get to know you, what good is it? You know, if we don't have a real
rapport.
Yeah, a real good rapport, a good solid relationship, how we gonna have unity and togetherness and not having fear of speaking? You know, I'm not the king around here. You know, a lot of these folks have just as much insight as me in being a problem solver. That's what I like to look at myself as a problem solver. If I don't talk to the folks around here, you know, I like to walk around and manage. You know, I'll go sit in the detectives, I'll go down in juvenile, I'll go sit around in patrols, sergeant's office, and talk to people, and I get ideas from them. So when I go to these neighborhood groups, I have different perspectives, that problems that the sergeant may see that I don't normally see.
So your traits that you like are having fun, and also your people skills and your relationship building.
Yeah, being able to problem solve, make people feel, you know, that they can be important in this organization. So empowering people and making them feel important and making them feel that they are an integral part of the problem solving process. You know, if you want to come to work, if I can make a working environment where they want to come to work and like work and can deal with the stress of this job and feel relaxed while they're here, that's what I want. So when it's time to get down to business, we ready to go as a team. We understand that if I ain't here, somebody step up to the plate. You know, I need a lot of chiefs around here, not just me. I need people that ain't afraid to make decisions. I need people that say, Cook, I think you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? And be able to put me on the right track, not somebody that just stand around hee ha ha, yeah. You know what I mean? Leaders.
What do you think you could be better at in your life? Not
time management. Well, in my life?
Yeah, just as a person.
I don't know. I was divorced. You know, don't get me on that. You know.
Okay. What do you like to do when you're not here and when you're not in uniform, when you're free?
I like to go to the library. I'm going to tell you, the greatest little library in Illinois is in this town, Northwestern University. I took Deputy Chief Dugan and Henry over there yesterday, and we all got our library cards for the transportation library. You familiar with that? Mm-mm. That's the law enforcement library over there. Oh. You know, the Center for Public Safety, you know, a lot of these guys, Commander Glue is a recent graduate of the Center for Public Safety Staff and Command. Once you graduate, you become an alumni of the university, and you are afforded all of the library privileges. So that's the law enforcement library over on the 5th floor. It's called the transportation. So anything about traffic, the latest law enforcement books.
This is what you do for fun.
That's where I relax. The problem solving process is made easy. because 99% of the time somebody done already solved your problem. They have graduate thesis over there, you know, on different subjects, so I can make myself look good. Scientific research, you know about that, right? Nah, I like to get my step on. You know what that is?
I can't even line dance.
I like to get my step on, you know. I told you the truth. You know, you can't change your faith, and you can't change the truth. That's a real Larry Hawkins quote. Larry Hawkins, man, listen. Everybody in the Gardens know Larry Hawkins. I was on a committee, the Altgeld Gardens Alumni Committee. It's people that graduated from Carver High School. Judge Studley was on it. I mean, you got people that's lawyers, you got people that's doctors, secretaries, all that. And we all got petitions together to name, it's a charter school. I think they closed it, I'm not quite sure. But it's called a Larry Hawkins Charter School, and it's in Altgeld Gardens. Wow. It was originally George Washington Carver, the old high school. Wow. They turned it into a charter school, and the new Carver High School, which is a little bit of ways away, but the old one, they changed it to Larry Hawkins. He saved a lot of people from crime. You know, we don't have that, you know. Listen, the social service aspect of the world is placed on a cop. You know, he crazy, call the police. Yep. He drunk, call the police. They fighting, call the police. It's a domestic, call the police. You know, these are all roles that have been entrusted upon us in the last 30 years. You know, we used to have mental health services in Cook County. Tinley Park Mental Health Facility been closed for 20-something years. Yeah. They got 50 buildings out there on the south side in Tinley Park just empty, sitting there. Yeah. So I ain't trying to scream on the county board or nothing, so don't print that. All right?
No, I won't print that. And are you going to bring victim services back to the police department?
You got to talk to Wally about that. I ain't scared to say it. I would like for them to be here, but you know, personnel issues that, you know, I got a boss, you know, that I answer to, and I'm riding with whatever he want me to do. You got that? Yeah. You can print that. I believe in that kind of stuff. That's my view. I believe in victim services, youth services. You know, we pioneered that, the Evanston Police Department. That was pioneered right here. I'm talking about the whole concept.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, Chicago police, they came here.
Yeah.
The Bobbies, they came here. I was here when they did that. Yeah. You know, a lot of the other police department, a lot of the towns now that have great advocates, they talk about Evanston.
Right. Well, I've kept you a long time, so thank you.
I told you the truth. You know, you can't change your faith, and you can't change the truth.